Hi everyone, welcome to our day one training session of learning Oracle Goldengate Classic Architecture Training. My name is Ashish Agarwal, and I'll be delivering this lecture to you. So before commencing the session, just a quick round of update regarding my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Ashish Agarwal underscore GG. So if you haven't visited the channel, I would request you to do visit the channel and do like, share, and subscribe the channel. The channel is dedicated to Golden Gate related. Thank you. So today is day one training session, and I have named it as 7 week learning Oracle Golden Gate Challenge. So in this session, what you can expect is you can expect lot of learning new things related to Oracle Golden Gate. So we'll be doing all the practical tasks with the training. So a lot of practicals will be coming your way. And what I expect you is whatever we are implementing during the sessions, implement it practically on your own machine. I have already provided you with the lab setup, etc. So please implement these things on your own setup as well, and I assure the knowledge will be taken to the next level by you. Okay, and if anytime you have any question, anything, feel free to reach out to me over WhatsApp group or email, or I'm just a call away as well. Okay. Okay, so let us start the session. So before we start, just a quick introduction about me. Like, I am expert in Oracle Golden Gate and Oracle database. I have 16 I have in fact now 17 plus years of training experience. Now I completed 17 years in October. So I have 17 plus years of training experience in Golden Gate. I have various high rated courses available on Oracle Golden Gate like classic architecture, microservices, and Veridata. So far I have trained 7,900 plus trainees and taken 270 plus corporate batches so far. So I'm expected to touch 8,000 by end of this month. I'm Oracle certified professional as well as Oracle Golden Gate certified as well. I'm blogger and speaker on Oracle Golden Gate on different channels. And as I shown you, like my own YouTube channel is there, youtube.com/Ashish Agarwal underscore GG. So please do like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done already. And if you have any question, you can always reach out to me via email, or you can tweet me your queries, or you can always WhatsApp me as well. Okay. So, what we are going to discuss during this training session. So, during this training session, we are going to discuss just a brief overview. I have high level topics I am providing over here, but you can expect lot more than that. So, this training is industry standard training, and it is based out of like my experience, what you can expect in Oracle Golden Gate when you are working in Oracle Golden Gate. So basically, I have implemented Golden Gate in around 1,000 projects, more than 1,000 projects so far. So what I do is I provide you knowledge, understanding, and guidance based on my experience. So this training is practical, as I told you. So as I told you, so the topics which I'm mentioning here, these are just for reference, but we cover a lot more than that, like performance tuning, troubleshooting, all those things are covered in detail, and real time scenarios we cover. Okay, so agenda of overall this training includes introduction to Oracle Golden Gate, architecture of Oracle Golden Gate, different types of architectures, of course, of Oracle Golden Gate, then Oracle Golden Gate 21c new features. So the training is upgraded to the latest version, and the latest version is 21c right now. So we'll be doing the training on 21c. Then installation, concepts and components of Golden Gate, DML replication, how do you replicate the data using Oracle Golden Gate, then how to perform initial load in Oracle Golden Gate, how to perform data filtration and transformation in Oracle Golden Gate, how to do bidirectional configuration in Oracle Golden Gate, what is bidirectional auto CDR. Then Auto CDR is the new feature in Oracle Golden. So automatic conflict detection and resolution. Then what is DDL replication? How to perform DDL replication using Oracle Golden Gate. Then how to monitor the lag. Now this comes under performance part. So how do you monitor the lag? How do you ensure the lag gets cleared? Troubleshooting Oracle Golden Gate issues. Like there are so many issues. So during the training, it's not like I'll be telling you I'll be going into each and every issue. So there might be 100,000 issues in Oracle Golden Gate. I cannot tell you each and every issue. No one can tell you, in fact, right? The thing which I teach during the training is how do you approach your issue. That is very important. Like I always said, not only in Golden Gate, but even in real time scenario in our life. If we are facing any issue, if we want to resolve anything, if our approach is good, the approach has to be good and proper. As long as you have good approach, whether you're solving issues in your life or whether you are solving issues in Golden Gate, that would be like you will be able to resolve any issue. So same thing applies in Golden Gate as well. So during the training, I'll teach you how you approach your issue. How do you, like, approaching is very important. How will you find the issue, and finding the RC is really very important part. So how can you find the root cause of the issue, and once you find the root cause, after that we'll discuss about the resolution. So finding the root cause is important, then finding the resolution, because resolution you can find easily once you have the root cause. So how you approach the issue. So whatever issue you face in your environment, we'll be discussing about that. So approaching the Golden Gate issues, we'll discuss. Then what is Golden Gate checkpoint? Now the thing is, in database as well you have checkpoint, and in Golden Gate you also have checkpoint. So checkpoint, database checkpoint and Golden Gate checkpoints are completely different. So during this training there may be couple of terms which you may find similar to your database as well, but until and unless specified, if we use the term which is specific to Golden Gate, like there are two terms which are specific to Golden Gate and database. First is data pump and second is checkpoint. So both these terms, until and unless I specifically mention that these are database, in that case it means those are checkpoint. So if I'm referring to any database related stuff, I'll use database keyword with. If I'm not, then it means Golden Gate. So this is Golden Gate checkpoint. Same way it would be Golden Gate data pump. But don't worry, I'll clear that part again when these terms comes. Then security, configuring Golden Gate security with is another aspect which is very important. How do you configure security in Golden Gate environment? See, the thing is, Golden Gate is a product which deals with data, and data is of utmost importance for any organization. A tool can give you 1,000 benefits, 10,000 benefits, but if it cannot guarantee data security, none of the organization is going to buy or use it. Same thing applies to Golden Gate. So in last few versions, Golden Gate has made its security more robust and implemented new features as well. So during the training, we would be covering like how to configure Golden Gate security in your environment. Then parameters and parameter files in Oracle Goldengate. So Oracle Goldengate works according to parameters provided in the parameter file. So that is another important, how to comprehend existing parameter file or how to create new parameter file. Then we'll also discuss about logdump utility, how to read trail files, performance tuning. Then we are going to discuss all the new features of Goldengate like parallel replicate, heartbeat table, performance matrix server. Then Goldengate self-describing trail files. Okay, so we are going to discuss, like, these are the high level topics I have designed. Along with it, we are going to discuss a lot more than that. I'll be including, I include a lot more topics in between, like zero downtime, upgradation and migration strategy, and other topics. Lot of topics are there which we'll be covering during the training. Okay, so let us start with day one training session. So the agenda of today's session is introduction to Oracle Goldengate. Then we'll discuss about overview of Oracle Goldengate, different types of architectures available in Oracle Goldengate, classic and microservices. Then what is Oracle Goldengate? Very data. Then different types of extracts and replicates in Goldengate. Then we'll discuss about introduction to Goldengate, Goldengate certification metrics, then how to download Goldengate binaries, and then if time permits, we'll install it, and then we'll discuss about training guidelines and how to set up our virtual boxes. Okay, so let us start the session now. And if you have any questions, feel free to post those questions in the chat window and I'll answer them. Okay, so Oracle database architecture. So first of all, Goldengate is a product. Goldengate is a CDC tool. So CDC stands for change data capture. So CDC stands for change data capture. So basically Goldengate is a product which works on the database. any change which is happening in the database, any data change which is happening, like it could be any DML or DDL transaction. So DML involves insert, update, delete. DDL involves changing the structure of an object. So Goldengate is a CDC, change data capture tool, which captures the changes happening into the database and then apply it to target database. So there are a lot of other solutions available in the market than Goldengate, but Goldengate is the leading product. Why and what are the reasons, we'll discuss later in the session. Okay, so Goldengate basically was founded in 1995. It was a standalone company at that time. It wasn't Oracle Goldengate, it was standalone company. In 2009, Oracle overtook it, and since then it is known as Oracle Goldengate. So it was named after famous San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. Many places where I go for speaking, people ask me, what do we mean by Golden Gate? Why this name Golden Gate came into existence? Because the name kind of is a bit different, right? They think like Golden Gate means it will open some gate, or it's come some, because it's a replication, so that's why they have named it like Golden Gate. No, the thing is, it is named after famous San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, and in 2009, Oracle overtook it, and since then it is known as Oracle Goldengate. So Goldengate is a product which is called as a CDC, change data capture tool. It works with the database. So whatever changes are happening in the database, it captures those changes and apply it to target site. Okay. So Goldengate, so each database has its own locks where the changes are getting resided into. So whenever you make any change, those changes are residing somewhere in the database. So let us discuss about Oracle database architecture, and then we'll move forward. So just a quick overview about Oracle database architecture. So Oracle database architecture itself is a big topic. We can spend 2-3 sessions discussing about it. But for now, I'll be discussing about what is required related to the Goldengate. Okay. So Oracle database architecture is divided into two parts: instance and Oracle database files. Instance again is divided into two parts: memory components and background processes. And Oracle database contains actual files like data files, which stores the data, actual data. Control files stores the metadata information, and these redo log files are the files which contains the change data. So whatever changes are happening into the database, those changes gets recorded into the redo logs. Now these redo log, the size of the redo logs is limited in the database. Hence, once they get filled, you take backup of these redo log files on the disk. So the backup of redo log files are called as archive log files. So whatever changes are happening into the database, basically any DDL or DML changes, those changes are recorded into redo log files. And once the backup of redo log files is taken, it gets recorded into archive log files. So for Goldengate, these two, redo log files or archive log files, works as the source. So Goldengate reads the changes from redo log files or archive log files. Now, in case of any other database, like if we talk about MySQL, if we talk about MS SQL, these redo log files or archive log files are called as transaction logs. So basically, I should say, in Oracle, the transaction logs are called as redo logs and backup of redo logs, which are called as archive logs. So the transaction logs are redo logs or archive logs. However, in other databases, those log files are called as transaction logs. So transaction logs basically contains whatever changes are happening into the database. Those changes gets logged into transaction logs. And then for Goldengate to work, for Goldengate, these transaction logs act as the source. So if it's Oracle, these transaction logs are called as archive logs or redo logs. Okay. Now the question comes, how do these redo log files or archive log files get the data from? So as I told, Oracle database architecture is divided into two parts: instance and Oracle database. So instance again is divided into two parts, memory components as well as background processes. So there are different memory components available like library cache, data dictionary cache, database buffer cache, Java pool, redo log, large pool, and other memory components. Same way, you have different background processes available like pmon, smon, dbwr, log writer, checkpoint, and others as well. So these are the background processes. So what happens is, and these data files are the actual files in the data, which contains the actual data. So say, for example, you are querying department table. You are doing select star from department. You get it on your screen. So say, for example, you are doing select star from department. You are doing it from your SQL developer Toad or from SQL session on putty. So you get the output. From where do you get that output from? So you get that output from these data files. So data files are the files which contains the actual data for you. Okay. Now, suppose you do. Now, what happens is you are updating a record, for example. So what you do is you update a record. You do select star. You do select from EMP11 where department number equal to 10. So what will happen? That statement will come into database buffer cache. Now you execute an update statement, update department, set location equal to India, where department number equal to 10. So what happens is whenever you change any data, it is called as a dirty buffer. So the buffer which get changed, it is called as dirty buffer. So what happens is when you make the change, the copy of that change gets returned into the data file using database writer process, but the copy of that change gets recorded into redo log buffer. Now from redo log buffer, it gets returned into the redo log. So basically, how does redo log files get the data from? Redo log files get the data from redo log buffer with help of background processes, with the help of log writer background process. So basically, the thing is, this is the actual file where the changes are residing. Control files are the metadata informations. Control files are the most critical files of the database, which contains metadata information. So metadata means data about data. So control file stores the metadata information. So all the files which are getting data here, they are basically getting the data from this memory components and with help of these background processes. Like how does data file get the data from? With the help of database writer background process and from database buffer cache. Similarly, how do redo log files get the data from? From redo log buffer and with help of log writer process. And there are several other processes which runs in the background, which helps you updating the data in other files as well. And other background processes helps in that case. But how does data files and redo log files get the data from? So redo log file basically get the data from redo log buffer with the help of log writer process. Now, in what condition log writer process writes the data into redo log files? Whenever there is commit. So as soon as you did update DEPT set location equal to India, where department number equal to 10. So whenever there is commit, as soon as commit happens, the data from redo log buffer will be returned into redo log file. Or when redo log buffer is 1/3 full. So say for example, the size of redo log buffer you have defined as 100 MB. So as soon as it is 33.3 MB full, it will write the data to redo log file. Or when there is 1 MB of redo. So when there is 1 MB of redo, immediately data gets written. Or every 3 seconds. And the important part is before this database writer process writes the data from database buffer cache to data files, redo log buffer will write the data to redo. That is very important. So, and another important thing to note is as a database administrator, you also might be having same misconception that redo log files contains only committed data. Guys, that's not true. Your redo log files contains committed as well as uncommitted transactions. So your redo log files and subsequently your archive log files is going to contain committed as well as uncommitted transaction. Both will be there in your redo log files. Okay, and subsequently, of course, your archive log files. So for Goldengate, the source is this redo log files or archive log files. Now, many people ask me this question: what is the source for Goldengate? Is it then redo log files or archive log files? Goldengate automatically does that task for you. You need not to worry. Like, what would be the source for Goldengate? Goldengate, if it can read from redo log file, it will read from redo log file. Otherwise, it will read from archive log file. But in fact, with the introduction of integrated extract, integrated capture, which you will be which we'll be discussing in some time today. So you will see the ultimately the source is your archive logs, but Goldengate automatically switches from where it has to read the data from. So if it can read the data from redo log file, like if it is fast enough to read and capture the data from redo log file, it will read. Otherwise, it is going to read the data from archive log file. It automatically does that switch. We need not to worry. We just configure the processes in Goldengate, and then Goldengate automatically takes care of it. You don't have to do anything in that scenario. Okay, so I again repeat, for Goldengate to capture the data, Goldengate captures the data from your redo log files or backup of redo log files, which are called as archive log files. So Goldengate captures the data from these files automatically. Okay, now these redo log files or archive log files are also known as transaction logs. So in case of non-Oracle database, remember one thing, Goldengate, the best part with Goldengate is Goldengate works with heterogeneous databases as well. So heterogeneous, we mean that it works with non-Oracle database. So for Oracle database, it is called as homogeneous, and for non-Oracle database, it is called as heterogeneous database. So Goldengate works with multiple heterogeneous databases, and that is the best quality or best, what should I say, USP of Goldengate, that it not only works with Oracle, it works with non-Oracle databases as well. So even though Goldengate is an Oracle product, it is not limited to Oracle database. And to capture the data from non-Oracle database or to capture the data from any database, it uses transaction logs of the data. Okay.
So source and target can be any database. It doesn't have
Yes.
target. It doesn't have to be Oracle.
Yes, correct. So with Goldengate, the advantage is your source can be Oracle, target can be any non-Oracle database. Or source can be any non-Oracle database, target can be Oracle. Or source can be non-Oracle, target can be any non-Oracle supported database. Goldengate will work and will be able to replicate the data without any issues. Now, the thing is Goldengate the only available solution in the market then? Is Goldengate the only available solution? What do you think? No. So Goldengate is not the only available solution in the market. There are lot of competitors in the market, but still the Goldengate is still the market leader. Like if I talk about 5-6 years before, the competitors of Goldengate were like EMC Recover Point, IBM Mirror, Hitachi True Copy, or HP had its own product, or Symantec Veritas Volume Replicator, or Dataco's Sen Symphony and Sen Melody. But now the nearest competitor of Oracle Goldengate is SharePlex and Attunity. So these are the two products, two most common competitors of Goldengate, which are being used in the market. So then there is one more thing, IBM CDC as well, which lot of organizations use. But each product has its own restriction. Each product has its own, what should I say, requirement as well. Same thing applies to Goldengate, but Goldengate capability has been extended to multiple databases, and it is more user friendly. And I'll discuss the reasons why the market share. So in fact, even right now, if you go out into the market share of Goldengate as per release data from Oracle is 95%. That is huge. And in fact, not only Oracle, even if you see in the market as well, you can see lot of job openings, a lot of requirement which comes related to Goldengate, related to any DBA. It comes for Goldengate, right? Hardly or to be very honest, I don't see any requirement or any JD job description which says that you should have SharePlex knowledge or Attunity knowledge or IBM CDC knowledge, right? But Golden Gate requirement is very huge. That I'll discuss about the reasons why those are the reasons why people are using it or what is the reason behind it. We'll be discussing about that as well. Now, another important thing, what people ask me, this is one of the common question as well. So data guard is also the what should I say? Data guard is also a most a competitor of Golden Gate, right? Many people ask me this. Guys, remember one thing. Data guard and Golden Gate capabilities are completely different. You can compare apple to apple. But you cannot compare apple to orange. Another thing, to rest my case on this, like means I'll answer this in detail and you will be able to understand this better once you have Golden Gate knowledge. But the thing is, we have to understand one thing. Golden Gate is a premium product. There is a reason why it is a chargeable product, why Golden Gate charges separate licenses for it, right? However, for data guard now. So there should be a reason, valid reason behind it. And that's why you cannot compare the two products. Second thing, just to give you a brief overview, data guard is a database level replication tool. That means that even though you are making any parameter change in the database, data guard will reflect that. Golden Gate is an object level replication. So what Golden Gate does is Golden Gate can replicate the data with on object level. Like say for example, you have a table department on source. You want to replicate the data of that on target. You can use data guard in that case. Okay. So Golden Gate has its competitors available in the market, but still the market share of in terms of CDC when we talk about it is too huge. Golden Gate is way ahead of its competitors. Like so, if you talk with me right now, the most nearest competitors in today's market are these three: SharePlex, Attunity, IBM CDC. As per my knowledge, you might be using something else as well, or you might have some other product in your mind as well. But I'm telling you, as per my knowledge, what I have seen or what I know. So as per me, if you ask me, like the market share, the nearest competitors of Golden Gate is SharePlex, Attunity, and IBM CDC. But still, the market share of Golden Gate is way, way, way ahead of other products than these three. The reason being, the simple reason I'll tell you is ease of use, support, and there are other reasons as well, which we'll be discussing now as well. Okay. So now the question comes, why Golden Gate? Why Golden Gate is widely used? Is there only a technical reason behind it? See, so guys, nothing is only technical. I always say one thing, like there are certain other reasons, right? If technical is the only reason right now, in that case, other technologies can also adapt that, right? It's not that difficult to adapt a technology. But yeah, there are several reasons for it. Let us first discuss technical reasons and then we'll discuss financial reasons as well. So, first of all, let us discuss technical reasons. Why Golden Gate? Why Golden Gate is widely used? Why you see, like, personally, if you go out into the market as well, so you will find Golden Gate requirements in the market as well, right? So, there is a question from Jishan. What if archives are not enabled on the data? If archive is not enabled, Golden Gate will not work. So that is the prerequisite to set up Oracle Golden Gate. Okay. Now, why Golden Gate? The question comes, why Golden Gate? So with Golden Gate, let us first discuss technical reasons and then then we'll divulge into financial reasons as well. So the technical reasons include, first of all, you have with Golden Gate, data is sent in near real time with sub-second latency. That means that Golden Gate can replicate the data in near real time within seconds. I'll tell you one thing. This is Oracle line. Data is sent in real time with sub-second latency. I call it near real time. Nothing as per me, because people claim it's real time. Real time means Within a as soon as you commit the data on source, it should be available on target. Now, there is always some delay. There may be some seconds or milliseconds, but yeah, there is always some delay. So I call it data is sent in near real time with sub-second latency. That means Golden Gate can replicate the data from source to target within few seconds. Okay. Then Golden Gate supports heterogeneous environments across different databases and different hardware types. So that is another important feature. Golden Gate not only supports Oracle database, it also supports non-Oracle data. Along with it, Golden Gate doesn't require your source and target to be same. Your source can be different database, target can be different database. Golden Gate can replicate non-Oracle to non-Oracle database like DB2 to SQL or DB2 to DB2 or MySQL to SQL Server. Golden Gate can replicate the data. Along with it, the source and target platforms can be different. Your source can be on Linux, target can be on Sun Solaris. Golden Gate can replicate the data. Your source can be on Windows, target can be any other supported platform. Golden Gate can replicate the data. So Golden Gate is not platform dependent. That is another advantage. Another thing, let me tell you, is even though the product is Oracle, this Golden Gate is product or Oracle product, still the way it works with Oracle database, in the same way it works with non-Oracle databases. That's the best part. So say for example, the setup management you do with Oracle Golden Gate for Oracle database, same way you will be doing it for non-Oracle database. Only difference of course is how it connects to the database. Like in Oracle it uses TNS entry, in some other databases it will use ODBC connection. So that's the only difference. Apart from that, everything else remains same. Then Golden Gate delivers high performance with low impact. High performance with low impact means is Golden Gate will be able to see the one thing I always say, or people ask me while I pitch Oracle Golden Gate to them is, will Golden Gate be having any impact on the source database? Because see, Golden Gate is a product which is tightly coupled with the database. So if there is no database, there is no existence of Golden Gate. So for Golden Gate to work, there has to be a database, right, on source side. So will it and they asked me one question as well. Will it have any impact on the source database or will it have any impact on the database at all? I always answer in that cases. See, Golden Gate is a product which sits on top of the database. Okay. And Golden Gate is an external product to the database. So you cannot expect it to be zero impact. Even though if anyone or including Oracle claims it to be zero impact, you cannot expect it to be zero impact. There might be 0.1, 0.01, 0.000001% impact. But yes, there is always an impact. You have to consider that as well. But with the introduction of latest features like integrated capture, etc., that impact has gone down to minimum. And you might not notice that impact as like if there is any impact, you might not notice that impact as well. But yes, the answer to the question is there any impact? The answer is yes, there is always an impact, but very minimal. Okay. Then another important thing is Golden Gate has ability to move large volume of data very efficiently. So you can move your clops, blobs, etc. There is no like with the introduction of latest versions. Like when I talk about Golden Gate 11G, yes, there were restrictions. When I talk about 12.1 Golden Gate, yes, there were certain restrictions. Sorry, certain restrictions. But with 12.2, 12.3, 18C, 19C, and now 21C, the Golden Gate support has increased tremendously and almost all the data types are supported. Okay. And no single point of failure. So troubleshooting of Golden Gate is pretty easy. Okay. So these are the technical reasons we discuss. Now, one question is, if there are, say, for example, the two sites are pretty distant in Oracle Golden Gate, like your one site and two site have 150 kilometer, 1000 kilometer difference, does it impact the performance? So the thing is, it all depends on the network.
Can you expand a bit on the no single point of failure?
It all depends on the impact of like your network. So even if the distance is high or low, it doesn't matter. Okay. So if the distance between the two sites is 1 million, miles. It doesn't, it depends, all depends on the network, how network is configured. So it depends on that. So there are certain factors as well which are involved. So those should also be taken care. Okay. Now, can we say an advantage too is it can replicate specific objects? Yes, Golden Gate can replicate specific objects, and you can decide, you can pick and choose what you can do. Golden Gate replication a SQL apply? That's the reason it's platform independent. The answer to your question is yes, Golden Gate is an SQL apply. The reason why it's platform independent we'll be discussing later on in the training. Okay. Now, Golden Gate is a there is no single point of failure. So regarding troubleshooting, we'll be discussing during later part of the session. But the thing is, Golden Gate is troubleshooting part of Golden Gate is pretty easy. There are different levels of troubleshooting steps involved. Like there are different points of like where Golden Gate can have issues. So we'll be discussing about troubleshooting in later part of the session. Now, another important thing here is these are the technical details. Now, second thing I want to discuss is financial details. Okay, why Golden Gate is very widely used. So technical reasons is of course Golden Gate capability. Now, second reason is I talk about financial reasons. Like you must be seeing there is huge amount of Golden Gate requirement nowadays coming through. Like almost all the openings, all the requirements related to in fact DBAs as well. There are standalone or there are requirements specific to Golden Gate are coming where they are not requiring database administrators, and then there are database administrators requirement, and having Golden Gate knowledge is mandatory. Why? The reason I'll tell you is apart from technical reasons, of course, there are not many people available in the market. And another thing is the Golden Gate is widely used now. So if I compare Golden Gate with 6 years in 2017-18 and now, the demand for Golden Gate, the use of Golden Gate it has in as per Oracle data, it has increased 20 times when we compare to 2017-18. And the reason why is organizations, one of the primary spike is coming because many organization signs end user license agreement with Oracle, EULA with Oracle. Now, when they sign it, what happens is they are like, if they include, of course, they're free to use Golden Gate in different projects and different number of CPUs. So Golden Gate by default comes with each CPU license, like number of database CPUs you have, Golden Gate will be charged according to that. But as per terms and conditions of EULA, which I have seen with many organizations, you might be different and Oracle might be offering you different offerings. But as per EULA, what happens is you can use Golden Gate in any number of it basically is not database CPU specific. Then you can use Golden Gate in any number of databases, any number of projects. And what happens in the after that is, because the capability of Golden Gate is very huge, many organizations don't use Golden Gate because it's a costly product. But when they sign EULA, they are free to use Oracle Golden Gate in any number of projects. And the capability it brings to the project, the use case it brings to the project is very huge in that case. So financial reasons are also there for using Oracle Golden Gate. So Golden Gate is not only used for because of technical reasons, but also due to financial reasons as well. So Golden Gate now is one of the best in class leader in real time data solutions. Now, Golden Gate, another major advantage with Golden Gate is it complements existing Oracle products as well. Like it ensures that your databases are continuously available as well. Now, say for example, you are replicating the data from New Jersey, your source side is in New Jersey, and you are replicating data to Boston. Your secondary site is kept in Boston, US. Okay. Now, your databases are running fine. Now, suddenly, there is some power failure in New Jersey. Suddenly, there is some power failure in New Jersey. So your application, what is connected, your application will go down in that case, right? Because your primary database is no longer there. Now, what happens is, suppose you have Golden Gate in this scenario. You are replicating the data using Golden Gate from New Jersey to Boston, and Boston contains near real-time data. So suppose if your New Jersey is down, you can switch over your application to Boston database without hampering anything, without hampering the OLTP transactions. So suppose if we talk about the big bank, let us take the example of Bank of America. Bank of America is working fine, and you went to the bank today. You deposited $1,000 in your account. The current balance in your account is $10,000. After depositing $1,000, the updated balance should be $11,000, right? But before it could be reflected in the database, the cashier took the money from you for deposit purpose. But before it could be reflected in the database, uh, the power failure happened. Now you went and saw that the amount is not showing in your database. You would be furious, right? So that's why what happens is, whatever changes are happening in the database, those changes will be replicated to Boston, and then application can connect to Boston database and can make whatever changes it was supposed to make. It will now reflect into the Boston. So basically, earlier the primary database, the application was connected to New Jersey, but as soon as the New Jersey database or server went down, within few seconds, your Boston was up and the application can continue its transaction without any issues. So Goldengate ensures that databases are continuously available. Second thing is real-time data access for reporting. Now that is another important part. I'll give you one example of mine, like real-time example. This example, some of you might have heard as well, because I give this example a lot. This is close to my heart as well, because this is one of the best initial projects I did, and I learned a lot from that. So I'll talk about 2011. Okay. State Bank of India. Many of you who are in India, of course, they know about it. But those who are out of India, State Bank of India is one of the, yeah, or is the largest government bank of India, I should say. Now, of course, it's a government bank. Now, what used to happen, I'm talking about 2011. Okay. So what they used to do at that time, their database was 11G. If I'm, yeah, it was 11G at that time, and the Golden Gate was pretty. I should not. Yeah, it was new because Golden Gate was introduced in 10G. So still the capability of Golden Gate wasn't that huge as it is today. Because I should not say capability, but the thing is, yeah, data support. Like nowadays, if we talk about number of databases it is supporting is very huge, or the data types it supports in comparison to that time and now, it has changed drastically. And another thing was, Golden Gate was not a credible product at that time. Golden Gate was still considered to be external product, and organizations were susceptible to use it because of it's like security it used to provide, but nowadays security is very much robust. But at that time, it wasn't that. Golden Gate has evolved in last few years. Like if you if you have attended my training in 2010s, 2011s, and if you are attending now, you will see the whole lot of difference in Golden Gate. But we'll talk about that later on. I don't want to go into that topic. Let us focus on this part only. What I wanted to tell you. So I'm talking about 2011s. 2011, in fact, I was working for one of the big MNC of India, and State Bank of India was one of my client at that time. Okay. Now they what they discussed during that time was basically they were replicating their data using DataGuard. Their primary server was kept in Mumbai, Hyderabad. Sorry, their primary server was kept in Mumbai, India, and the secondary server was kept in Hyderabad, India. Okay. Now, what they used to do was they used to run many days during a week, several times during a week. They used to run some nightly jobs, which used to run from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And in fact, I have seen personally, they used to generate around 500 GB of archives during that time. So during that time, number of archive generation was huge. Now, they were replicating data from Mumbai to Hyderabad. Okay. Now, what I note or what the problem was, because the archive generation was so huge. So at that time, the data guard used to lag behind 3 days as well. So the data guard replication was not trustable, And it wasn't real time as well. Many times I've noticed it was lagging behind 3 days as well, because the transaction generation was huge. State Bank of India database size in 2011 itself was 43 terabytes. I believe it would have doubled by now. Okay, anyone who's working with SBI can confirm, but I'm not sure the current data size now. Okay, now the archive generation, was huge at that time with that nightly job. Now, due to that and due to online transaction processing, because at that time the private bankings were not at boom at that time. Still, people were using State Bank of India during that time. Means it was the biggest player in terms of banking at that time. Now, what used to happen was, because the data size was huge, the data guard performance was not good, and hence their replication didn't used to go on or move properly. So the one of the problem they were facing was, if suppose their Mumbai server goes down, if suppose there is some flood in Mumbai of power failure in Mumbai, they faced that issue during 2005 as well. So if any power failure happens, if they want to turn over to data guard, it won't be possible for them. It won't be easy for them, right? Because the reason was, it was like because the data guard was not in sync, right? So they had real issues at that time. So another issue what they were facing was, apart from this, was, many of you who are from India, they can relate to this. SBI was losing its credibility, because whenever you used to go to bank, you used to get one answer only, like the server is down or server is not responding. What do they mean by server is not responding or server is down? The reason was, basically their data application was not able to establish the connectivity with database, because database was so much, like database hands were so full, it was not able to uh, accept any new requests which was coming from application, and hence customers were losing data. SBI was losing customers, and customers were really unhappy at that time with SBI. Then what I did was, I analyzed their database. First thing what I realized was that during the online OLTP transactions, like during 9 to 5, they used to run, like any banking or telecom domain, there are a lot of reporting jobs which runs. So what I noticed was, there were a lot of reporting jobs which they used to run during OLTP transaction, which used to basically uh, conflict with OLTP transaction, right? So what I suggested to them is, like, because they want to replicate the data, because they want to there were two solutions they were needing. One for reporting, and second for uh, one for slowness, and second was their data guard solution. So what I suggested them was, let us use Goldengate. Let us set up Goldengate along with the data guard. Your data guard will continue to run, but let us do another setup of Goldengate. We'll replicate the data from Mumbai to Hyderabad, but we'll set up another server where the data will be replicated using Oracle Goldengate. Now we did the setup using Oracle Goldengate, and you won't believe, the lag was reduced tremendously. Like, Goldengate was able to replicate the data within 8 to 10 seconds. The maximum lag I noticed during normal time was 30 seconds, right? And yeah, when nightly jobs used to run, when there were huge archive log generation, yes, during that time there was used to be lag of maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, but it used to clear quickly because of Goldengate. So first problem was solved, kind of. If, say for example, if the primary database has to go down, then the database can quickly switch to secondary database. Second thing was, regarding reporting, what I noticed was, the OLTP transactions were getting conflict with reporting jobs. So what I suggested them was, let us move these reporting jobs to the secondary server, that is Goldengate server, where Goldengate is replicating the data. And the reporting jobs can run from that, because the Goldengate replicated server is having lag of 8 seconds or 10 seconds or maybe couple of seconds. So reporting jobs can take that into account. But what will happen is, in that scenario, the OLTP transactions will not be hampered and customer satisfaction will improve. So what we did at that time was we switched the reporting jobs to the Goldengate replicated server, and you won't believe the performance of OLTP transaction improved a lot after that. So it was such a, like, what I'm telling you is in brief, but whatever I did, it was a complete 3 or 4 years, 3 years project, I should say. I worked for them from 2011 to 2013 end. So for 3 to 4 years, it was such a huge learning knowledge, because another important challenge I'll tell you is not only technical resolution. When you are working with government officials, their main focus is, like, anywhere, as per my understanding, if I work anywhere with any government official, any country, not only India, what happens is their main focus is to ensure that whatever is running, it should not get worse, otherwise they will be in trouble. And they are susceptible, or they are not interested for change or acquiring new technologies. So it was really very difficult to deal with them as well during that time. But yeah, things went smooth. We, of course, there are good people and who have knowledge of the new technologies as well. So we got hold of few good people over there, and with help of them, we were able to get this project implemented. And now still Goldengate is running in their environment, and it's like going very. So Jishan has just posted. One thing is the database size is more than 1,000 terabytes now. So okay, okay, okay. So Vikas has a question. In this scenario, what you are discussing, there were three databases: primary, standby, and win with GG. Yes, correct. So GG was done separate because DR was, because Goldengate at that time, as I told you, right, it wasn't it hasn't establishes its credibility. It was still establishing at that time. 2009, Oracle had overtook it, and Goldengate has been always an expensive product. And at that time, they also had streams as well. So they had another method of replication through streams as well, which used to lag behind a lot. If you have heard about Oracle streams, now Oracle streams is no longer there. There is only Golden. Okay. Imran has a question. If we increase the online redo log group size, then it will not help in reducing the lag to minimize the number of archive log generation. Imran, it doesn't matter number of archives. Like the size matters. The data will still remain same, right? If you increase the redo log size. Another important thing you have to consider is, you may increase it. Say, for example, I say, yes, it will resolve Goldengate related stuff. But if you increase the size at database level, it might hamper database performance as well. So remember one thing, Goldengate and database go hand in hand. And Goldengate is a product which works with the database. If anything is happening at the database, it might impact Goldengate as well. And you cannot directly just make changes at the database level just for the purpose of Goldengate. You also have to ensure that it should not impact database as well. Okay. Okay. Goldengate is also used for real-time data for business intelligence or Exadata or EPM. So Goldengate is also used for business intelligence purposes as well. So Goldengate along with ODI is one of the best business intelligence tool available in the market. So Goldengate along with ODI or Informatica as well, in fact, it is used as a very widely used product for business intelligence. Okay. Another important thing is, you might be hearing the term nowadays lift and shift. Okay. So that is in demand for long time, but now with cloud migrations, what is happening is, because Goldengate is a costly product, of course, and there you must, another important thing why you see so much demand of Goldengate in current scenario is in the market. Why organizations are looking for Goldengate administrators? The reason being, there are a lot of cloud migrations going on, right? Now, say for example, I take an example of any big bank, Bank of America, for example. Okay. Suppose you hold a suppose you hold a account in Bank of America. Okay. You want to access your money, but your data, but Bank of America is upgrading its database to cloud. It takes, say for example, 8 hours for them to upgrade their database. How would you feel if you cannot access your money? If you cannot access your money due to database upgrade, how would you feel? You won't feel good, right? You will have complaint for the bank. So what organizations are doing is, for zero downtime upgradation and migration, like migration from one database version to another version, like 12c to 19c or 19c to 21c, or upgradation of upgradation from one version to another, or migration from on-prem to cloud, they are using Oracle Goldengate for zero downtime upgradation and migration. So Goldengate, one of the use case of Oracle Goldengate is it uses, it performs, or it helps you in zero downtime upgradation and migration as well. That means that zero downtime means is basically your database is not down at all during the time your upgradation or migration is happening. Your database is always available. I'll give you one scenario for this, one example of this. I was working with one of the leading telecom operator of UK. This is in 2014. They were upgrading their database from 11G to 12C. Okay, it's a leading telecom company of UK. Okay, now their database size was not huge. It was I think 85 GB if I'm not wrong. But the thing was, it was working as a source database for multiple downstream databases. So basically, the data in that database was being referred by multiple databases which were dependent on it. Okay. So it was very important or very critical database. What happened was they they took the downtime. Okay. During that downtime, the database was completely down. As a result, customers were unable to pay the bill, or customers were not able to, they were basically not able to make financial transaction at all during that time. And because Golden Gate was costly product, of course, so they chose not to use Oracle. And I was working with the vendor, and vendor agreed to it. Okay. And it was decided that if the if the downtime increases, there would be penalty on the vendor. Okay. Now, while upgradation, because they didn't use Golden Gate, while upgradation, there were some issues encountered. The downtime agreed was 3 hours, but it took 8 hours to do the whole upgradation of database. During 8 hours, the the customer lost almost, as reported by them, they lost the revenue because it was done during midnight, of course. They lost almost $10,000 as per the report. 10,000 pounds. That was the loss for them. Now the loss wasn't, if you compare that, it wasn't huge, but customers face huge issues, and due to this, lot of customers switch to other telecom companies. It happens, right? If I'm not satisfied, if these kind of thing comes here, we switch to some other provider. So the estimated value loss after a year which they gave was roughly in millions as well. They lost a lot due to that. Just because they chose not to use Oracle Goldengate for upgradation and migration, just to save them cost. As a result, because the database time was increased due to some reasons, so the vendor whom I was working with had to pay the penalty there, because there was a penalty clause. And second thing was, when they upgraded their database from 12c to 19c in 2018 or 19, at that time they used Oracle Goldengate because they understood the importance of Oracle Goldengate, and they used it for zero downtime upgradation at that time. I think recently I was not involved in that. So for using Golden Gate for zero downtime upgradation from 12C to 19C, I did them using Oracle Golden Gate. I heard in 2023 itself they did migrate their on-prem databases to cloud. I was not involved. Actually, what happened was they opened the bidding. I bid for them, but they didn't accept my bid. So I didn't work for them at that time because the whole organization in last 10 years have changed. It almost last time I worked with them was 5 years before, and now the organization people have changed. So they just took care of money, and money wise someone else took that project. But yes, they did that recently, and again they use Oracle Golden Gate for zero downtime migration from on-prem to cloud. So Golden Gate is widely used for zero downtime upgradation and migration. How you use it, we'll discuss. How to strategize for it, we'll discuss during later parts of the training. Okay. Now, one of the thing or one of the question which I always get or which people say is, and that is true as well. If I talk about until 2018 or 19, Golden Gate major domain or major institutions which used to use Oracle Golden Gate was primarily in financial or telecom domains, like banks or any investor groups. They used to use Golden Gate or telecom domains. You name a telecom domain in this world, like British Telecom, Rogers, or AT&T, or Airtel, or Vodafone. All of them are using Oracle Golden Gate nowadays. So Golden Gate is now being utilized in all the domains, like when we talk about telecom, when we talk about financial, when we talk about food and drugstore, and when we talk about hospitals as well. Like hospitals are also using Oracle Golden Gate a lot for replicating the data. Because the simple reason I'll tell you is Golden Gate works with data. Golden Gate requires data replication. And data needs to be kept in multiple places. The simple reason being if anything happens to the primary server or primary database, the copy should be available in some other databases, right? So that's the reason. And another important thing is with Golden Gate, now you can say that they can keep a copy of that data with the data guard as well or any other cheaper tool. Why do they spend so much on Golden Gate? The reason being with that data you can do multiple things. Like nowadays everything like how do you receive email marketing emails, you receive marketing messages. How do they do that? Using these, because what happens is they can then turn their data into business intelligence, and then they can use Oracle Golden Gate for that purpose. So Golden Gate is widely used in all the technologies. Okay. Okay. So Golden Gate solutions include high availability. It ensures that your databases are highly available. It ensures zero downtime upgradation and migration. It helps you in live reporting as well as business intelligence tools. So Golden Gate supports multiple databases as well as multiple platforms as well. Okay, so there are a few questions. In GG source 100 log generation, target some log gap shipping. In that case, what will happen to DB? What will happen to target server? So Golden Gate basically captures the data from by reading the source logs. So there is no log shipping happens in Oracle Golden Gate. Guys, remember one thing: Golden Gate does not ship the archive logs from source to target. No, there is no log shipping which happens. Golden Gate keeps the data. You will understand this. Hold your question, Miran. Your question will be answered in next few slides. Okay. Now, would appreciate if more can be explained on how zero downtime upgradation and migration is performed using Oracle Golden Gate. So that is a separate topic which we'll be covering during our maybe third or fourth session. So we'll be discussing in detail how Golden Gate is used for zero downtime upgradation and migration. Guys, we have not see. We have to understand one thing. This is just the introduction we are into right now. We have in fact not discussed about the architecture part yet. So hold on to your questions about like this. Don't worry, all these questions will be answered subsequently as the session goes on. Okay. Okay. If you have any question, guys, feel free to post in the chat window. Okay. Now, there are different databases and platforms which Oracle Goldengate supports. Now, this is the list. This is the only few database and platform list. Now, the list from 21C has grown a lot. And I'll let you know, like, one question which one thing which I want you to do, or which I want from each and every student of mine is, like, what happens is, they ask me this question, or they I see within different groups they post, does Goldengate is supported on this platform and this database? I tell them that you should be able to do this on your own. How? We'll discuss in some time. Okay. Now, different databases and platforms which Goldengate supports are Oracle, IBM DB2, Postgres, SQL Server, Sybase, Ingress, Teradata, Nscribe, SQL Server, MySQL databases are supported. Same way, different platforms and OS are supported as well, like Windows, Linux, Sun Solaris, HP Nonstop, HP different flavors, IBM. So IBM ZOS, IBM AIX, lot of platforms. Like, these are only the few. It's not like this is the only list. There are a lot more than that which are supported. This is only the few which are mentioned over here. So with Goldengate, the advantage is you can replicate the data between heterogeneous as well as homogeneous environment. That means your source can be Oracle and target can be non-Oracle supported database. So the list of a number of database which are supported now has grown a lot in comparison to when I talk about 11G or 12C. In fact, 12C, there were three versions in Goldengate. So another question which I get from many people is, like, are Goldengate and database version same? Like, uh, in database 12.2 was referred as 18C, 12.3 was referred as 19C. No, that's not the case in Goldengate. In Goldengate, 12.1 was different, Goldengate version 12.2 was different, Goldengate version 12.3 was different, then they introduced Goldengate 18C, then Goldengate 19C was introduced as well. Okay, can we migrate Oracle to another database with GG without downtime? Yes, Avinash, that is possible, but there are certain restrictions. But yeah, but the question what you are asking is, yes, that is possible as well. So you can use Goldengate with different database versions as well. Another important thing with Goldengate is your source can be on 11G, target can be 21C, or your source can be 21C, target can be 11G. Goldengate has forward as well as backward compatibility, both. It supports. Okay. So now let us discuss about different types of architectures available in Oracle Goldengate. Let us discuss about architecture. But before I proceed, let us discuss about different types of available architecture in Oracle Goldengate. So basically, as I told you, Goldengate was founded in 1995. It was named after famous San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. In 2009, Oracle overtook it, and since then it is known as Oracle Goldengate. Now, from 2009 to 2017, there was only one way to configure Goldengate, and that was through command prompt GGSC. Okay, so until 2017, this was called as Oracle Goldengate only. So until 2009 to 2017, it was only GGSCA. Okay. In until 2017 August, it was called as Oracle Goldengate. In 2017, Oracle renamed it to Oracle Goldengate Classic Architecture. Okay. So Oracle Goldengate Classic Architecture allows you to set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure Goldengate through command prompt GGSC. Okay. And in 2017, in August 2017, Oracle launched a new architecture of Goldengate, which is called as Oracle Goldengate Microservices Architecture. So Oracle Goldengate Microservices is a web-based REST API architecture, which one of the feature is GUI as well. which allows you to set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure Goldengate through GUI. So in classic architecture, there is no feature of GUI. Okay, everything is command prompt. However, in microservices, a new feature is called as a new feature, or one of the feature of microservices is GUI as well. Now, classic architecture was and is, of course, available for Oracle as well as non-Oracle. So you can use Oracle Goldengate for, if you have Oracle as well as non-Oracle database, you can use both classic. You can use classic architecture. So say for example, if you want to replicate the data for Oracle for MySQL, so you can use classic architecture, whether the Goldengate version is 12.3 classic or 18C classic or 19C classic. But with microservices, until 19C, there was some restriction. Until 19C, microservices architecture was available only for Oracle database. However, from 21C onwards, the support for microservices architecture has been extended to 5 databases: DB2, MySQL, MSSQL, Postgres, as well as Oracle, of course. So these 5 databases are also available for Oracle Goldengate microservices. But prior to 21C, that wasn't the case. If you want to use microservices architecture was available only for Oracle until 19C. So let me tell you a brief overview. So what happened is, from 12 until 12.2, until whatever versions I'm talking about, guys, only Goldengate version. These are not database versions, Goldengate version. Okay. So Goldengate 12.2 until Goldengate version 12. It was only classic. Only classic architecture was on it. Now, from Goldengate version 12.3 onwards, from Goldengate version 12.3 to 21C Goldengate version, classic and microservices coexist. Microservices architecture is also, the short form is called as MSA. So from 12.3 Goldengate to 21C Goldengate, classic and microservices coexist. So basically you can choose in your environment what type of architecture you want to implement. So basically the binaries of Goldengate classic architecture and binaries of Oracle Goldengate microservices are different. So you can choose what type of architecture you want to use based on what is supported. So either you can choose classic or microservices, up to you. But yeah, from 12.3 to 21C, the binaries are available for both classic as well as microservices. However, remember one thing, let me tell you, 21C is the last version where classic architecture is available. Post 21C, that is from 23C onwards, only microservices will be. There will no longer be any classic. It will only be microservices architecture going forward. For the database, for the databases for which microservices architecture support has been introduced. Okay. So classic architecture is going to be deprecated, guys, but it's not like it won't be supported. The reason I'll tell you is, another important thing we have to keep in mind is, still 80 to 85% of implementations are still on classic architecture. 80 to 85, I should say 80 to 82% implementations are still on classic architecture. 18 to 20% of implementations are on microservices architecture right now. But yes, Oracle is aggressively pushing its customers to use microservices architecture. So microservices architecture is future of Oracle Goldengate. Okay. Now microservices mean that different services, like lot of technologies are moving to microservices, right? So Goldengate, to stay relevant, like one question which is being asked is, what is the future of Oracle Goldengate? Many people ask me this question. What is the future of Oracle Goldengate? Goldengate How do you see the future? I always say one thing. If you can stay relevant, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, whether it's technology, if we keep upskilling, if we keep changing ourselves according to time, we'll always stay relevant, right? So same thing, microservices, you must have seen lot of technologies are now moving to microservices, right? Same thing applies here as well. Same thing in Goldengate. If it was classic, with changing times, Goldengate had to be upgraded. Oracle has done this remarkable job, and that's why they have now introduced microservices, and microservices now is in lot of technologies, it's a service based architecture. So things runs as a service in microservice. And microservices is definitely the future of Oracle Goldengate. And with this upgradation to microservices, Oracle has changed or upgraded itself according to changing technology. Okay. Okay. So now there are two types of architectures in Goldengate. One is classic and second is microservices architecture. So Oracle Goldengate classic architecture is command prompt based GGSCI based architecture. It is available for both Oracle as well as non-Oracle database. Post 21C, it's deprecated. Microservices architecture is available from Goldengate version 12.3 onwards. It allows you to set up, manage, troubleshoot, configure Goldengate through GUI. Another important thing is with this cloud boom, integration with cloud is easy with this microservices architecture. Okay. And until 19C, Oracle Goldengate microservices was available only for Oracle database. But now from 19C, microservices architecture is support is extended for 5 databases, which includes uh, non-Oracle databases as well. And then from 12.3 to 21C, Classic and MSA both exist. Okay, now let us discuss about complete Goldengate family. Now in Goldengate family, when we talk about Oracle Goldengate family, there is one more product which comes in Oracle Goldengate family, which some of you or many of you might have heard from me or from your organization or somewhere else as well. Oracle Goldengate Veridata, right? Now Oracle Goldengate Veridata is another product in Goldengate family which allows you to verify the data. So Goldengate Veridata, let me tell you before I proceed, is a separately licensed product. It's not come under Goldengate license. If you have Goldengate license, it doesn't mean you can use Veridata. Veridata is a separately licensed product which is used to verify the data. The thing is, say for example, on source, you have 10,000 records in a table, and on target, you have 9,000. So what Veridata can do for you is it can identify those discrepant records and it can repair those discrepancies as well. Veridata nowadays is getting very popular due to these cloud migrations going on. So organizations want to confirm whether their data is in sync or not upon migration. So Veridata is getting very popular nowadays. So Oracle Goldengate family includes three things: classic architecture, microservices, and Veridata. So if you go out for any job, any interview, or anything related to Goldengate, any question in Oracle Goldengate will come from these three things only: classic architecture and or microservices and or Veridata. None of the question in Oracle Goldengate will go out of these three. Okay. Okay. Now, one question before I proceed, which I want to ask you is, with this introduction of classic architecture, microservices does no longer does microservice does mic does integrated no longer exist with the introduction of classic architecture? Integrated no longer exists. What do you think?
Your question is not clear. What do you mean by integrated?
Yeah. So okay. So thing is okay. So if you don't know about integrated, that will be clear to you in next slide. But many or some of them might have this question. So that's okay. Don't worry about that. That question, if you don't know what integrated means or what I'm saying about integrated, don't worry. I'll answer that in the next slide.
The log shaping happens via log miner.
So my question is not what integrated is. My question is, with the introduction of microservices, does integrated no longer exist?
It will exist, right?
Okay.
Maybe classic won't.
I mean, integrated support heterogeneous replication, right? So from Oracle to different database vendor, just like microservices. So it seems like microservices will overtake that capability from integrated capture. So
Okay.
that's probably why microservices, I mean, integrated replication will no longer be needed.
So I'll rephrase my question. Okay. I'll rephrase my question. Silvani, absolutely, you are correct. Okay. But I'll rephrase my question for everyone else as again. With the introduction of microservices architecture, does integrated architecture no longer exist?
Integrated architecture. I don't think we have integrated architecture.
Exactly. Exactly. So what happens, why I asked this question was, I'll tell you, not to confuse you, but in the next slide now I'll answer. So how Goldengate works is, and you will understand it in next few minutes. But before that, I'm going to discuss about extracts and replicates. So just to give you an overview, how Goldengate works is basically you have a source database and a target database, right? So Goldengate extracts the data from source database. It extracts the data from source database and then replicates the data or apply the data to the target database. This is how Goldengate works. Okay. So extraction part is done by extracts and the replication part is done by replicates. I again repeat, the extraction part is done by Goldengate extract processes and the replication part is done by Goldengate replicate processes. Okay, so we'll be discussing this in detail, but I'm just giving a brief overview before I discuss the next slide. So in Goldengate, you have got different types of extracts and replicates available. So what happened was, when Goldengate was initially there, okay, there was only one type of extract and one type of replicate. Then in Goldengate version 11.204 onwards, Goldengate introduced the new type of extract which is called as integrated extract, and they launched a new architecture, or they launched a new type of extract which is called as integrated extract, and they renamed the existing one to classic. So basically just like they did in classic, just like they did in classic architecture. Okay, so the traditional one was renamed to classic. Same way, in terms of extract, the existing or traditional was named as classic extract, and they launched a new type of extract which is called as integrated extract. So integrated extract is the new feature of Oracle Goldengate, which was introduced. Now it's quite old, I should not say new, but I should say it's the latest available type of extract, which is available since Goldengate version 11.204 and database version 11.203. So to use the integrated extract, if you are using Goldengate version 11.204 and if your database version is 11.203, then you can use integrated extract. And integrated extract is available only for Oracle database. For non-Oracle database, you still have to use classic extract. Okay. So there are two types of extracts available, integrated and classic extract. Same way, different types of replicates, and let me tell you another thing is, if you are using multi-tenant architecture, there is no integrated extract. There is no classic extract available. You can only create integrated extract. Same way, different types of replicates available in Oracle Goldengate are non-integrated or classic replicate, which were the first type of replicate. Then they introduced integrated replicate from Goldengate version 12.1, and database had to be 12c for that. Then coordinated replicate was introduced to improve the performance of non-integrated or classic replicate. And then the new type of replicate which has been introduced is parallel replicate. So parallel replicate is the latest feature of Goldengate, which was available in Goldengate version 12.3. So there are two types of parallel replicate. So basically, the first two types of replicate you see, they are non-parallel replicate. So when you run them in parallel, they become parallel non-integrated replicate or parallel integrated replicate. So parallel non-integrated replicate, to use parallel non-integrated replicate, your database version has to be minimum 12.1 and Goldengate version has to be minimum 12.3. Same way, to use parallel integrated replicate, the database version minimum has to be 12.2 and the minimum Goldengate version should be 12.3. So if your database version or Goldengate version is less than these, it won't work at all. Now, these parallel replicate are the latest type of replicates, and they are, the performance wise, they are really very good. As per my test, I'm telling you, the performance of parallel replicate is almost 5 times faster than its contemporary type of replicates. Like parallel non-integrated replicate performance is much better than a non-integrated replicate. Same way, parallel integrated replicate is almost 5 times faster than parallel integrated replicate. Now, if you ask about coordinated replicate was the type of replicate which was introduced in 12.2 Goldengate version onwards. But to be very, like, it was introduced to improve the performance of non-integrated or classic replicate. But with this introduction of parallel replicate, coordinated replicate is kind of obsolete. No one is using it. In fact, if you ask me about coordinated replicate, I have used coordinated replicate in maximum 1 or 2 projects, and that too if you ask me the benefit of using coordinated replicate. I did sometime few testing. I didn't find it to be much useful. But yes, coordinated replicate, of course, Oracle has introduced it, and as per them, the performance was good in comparison to their non-integrated or classic replicate. But now, with the introduction of parallel replicate is used. Now, the question which people ask me is, what type of extract, how do we choose what type of extract or replicate we should use? My answer to that question always remains same. Always go with the latest available supported version. So if in your environment it supports integrated extract, use integrated extract, because the number of features it has, the integrated extract, the capability it has, it is very huge. It supports multiple data types. It supports multiple database. It supports, like, the capability of integrated extract is, if you have ASM, if you have rack, you don't have to do any extra configuration if you are using integrated extract. The simple reason being, integrated extract is tightly coupled with the database. Okay. And then classic extract was initially there. What is the difference between classic and integrated? We'll discuss in the architecture as well. Now, for different types of replicates, again, either my recommendation would be either use integrated replicate or go with parallel replicate. Either parallel non-integrated or parallel integrated replicate based on what is supported for your environment. Okay. Now, another question which I get a lot is, on what parameter should we choose? Whether we should use Goldengate classic architecture or microservices architecture. See, you can choose any based on your level of expertise. What I notice is, still in the market, the capability of Goldengate experience is still very low. Not many people know Goldengate, but still, if anyone knows it, if people knows it, the knowledge or experience on Goldengate microservices is not there a lot. The market of Goldengate microservices in terms of knowledge is very less. So what people do is, because they know something about classic architecture. See, if I'm working for an organization, I'm working as a lead Goldengate expert for them, or I'm a pretty experienced person for them, right? Now, if they ask me, so organization, what they do, they generally contact two people. Two means if they have to implement anything, they contact two people. Either they will contact the SME of that product in their organization. Second person they will contact is owner of the product, right? So in case of Goldengate, they will either contact me if I'm the SME of that product in their organization. They will trust my expertise. Or second thing is they will go with Oracle recommend. They will ask Oracle, right? Now, if they go to Oracle, definitely Oracle will recommend microservices as of today. But if they come to me and if they lean towards my expertise, and if I have knowledge, only a little knowledge on Goldengate and that too on Classic, if I don't know anything about microservices, so what I would do, I will definitely ask them to use, or I will definitely give my vote towards Classic architecture. Now, being the implementer, being a SME, being a being a project coordinator of that project of implementation, they will, because they will go with towards like whatever expertise I have. Based on my expertise, they will go. That's why you see still Classic architecture is growing. Microservices is not growing that much. Microservices is getting implemented in those places where Oracle has a big account, and some some SMEs from Oracle side are present on their, and like on site for those organizations. So still the growth of microservices is not as expected. The simple reason being lack of knowledge in the market, lack of product knowledge. But yes, Oracle is aggressively pushing it. It's like providing its own expertise from their end to implement it. That's why microservices is getting very popular. So from 12.3 to 21C, classic and microservices, both types of architecture exist. So suppose you want to implement 19C or 21C Goldengate in your environment. So you have the option to use or choose either classic architecture or microservices architecture. You can choose any of that. And from Goldengate version 21C, microservices is now supporting or MySQL, DB2 SQL Server, as well as Postgres databases. It is not only supporting Oracle, it is also supporting non-Oracle databases as well. Okay. Now, there is one question, any cost difference between classic and microservices? Now, the licensing part, I may not be answered it like correctly. See, one thing you have to understand whenever anyone asks me licensing part, I can help you with any technical questions, but any license related costs, because see, it's a Oracle product, Oracle can answer it well. But as per my knowledge, if you have Goldengate license, you can choose either classic or microservices. There is no restriction. But yes, I would always recommend to check with Oracle account manager for it. But yes, as per my knowledge, I again repeat, no, if you have Goldengate license, you can either choose classic or microservices, anything. Then Imran Khan has a question. Don't you think today organizations are using Goldengate for mostly migration purposes rather than purely replication thing for reporting purpose, as we also have DG with read only and companies preferring DG than GG, which licensing is less? So the thing is, Goldengate nowadays, I think I already answered it earlier as well, why Goldengate is getting very popular. But the answer to your question is, as I told you, Goldengate cannot be used as data guard solution, or data guard cannot be used as Goldengate solution. No. If the purpose is just for replication purpose, just to build a disaster recovery site, then yes, data guard could be preferred, because licensing does not come into picture. But Goldengate capability includes lot more than replication purpose. Now, the answer to the question, first question, whether organizations are only using mostly for migration purpose, the answer to the question is yes and no both. So organizations use some of the organizations use Goldengate only for migration part. Like during migration, they will buy a Goldengate license for short term, and they will hire Goldengate consultant for short term. They will pay well, and then they will use the migration. But a lot of organizations are using it for replication purpose because of its capability as well. Like it use Goldengate along with Goldengate works serves as a business intelligence tool as well. You can play around with data, you can massage the data, you can do no whatnot with Oracle Goldengate. Okay. And regarding license part again, Veridata is a separately licensed product. It is not a Goldengate Veridata license does not or is not included in Goldengate license. Okay, so Veridata is a separately licensed product. So I again repeat, Goldengate microservices architecture is available from from Goldengate version 12.3 to Goldengate 21C. Both classic as well as microservices architecture, both exist. So you can pick and choose which type of architecture you want to implement in your environment. You can either implement classic or you can implement microservices architecture as well in your environment. Okay, now
So this post 21C to 12.3 versions that you're mentioning is a Golden Gate version, not database.
as I mentioned, whenever I'm mentioning anything in this training, guys, there might be some terms which you might find common, like this version part is. So until and unless I specify, it means Golden Gate only, because this is Golden Gate training, so you have to consider it as Golden Gate term we are talking about. So the version, the answer to your question, Ramakrishna, yes, when we are talking about these versions, I'm talking about these Golden Gate versions, not database versions. The Golden Gate and database versions are same, like Golden Gate 20 database 21C was launched, so Golden Gate 21C was launched. Same when 19C was launched, so when database 19C was launched, Goldengate also installed or launched 21C. Same way applied to earlier versions as well. Okay, so now let us discuss about how Goldengate works basically. What is the Goldengate architecture looks like? Okay, now how Goldengate works. So Goldengate, in Goldengate you have got source database and a target database. Now, source database can be any supported Oracle or non-Oracle database. And same way, the target database can be any supported Oracle or non-Oracle supported database. Now, each database has its own transaction logs. So these transaction logs in case of Oracle are called as redo logs, or backup of redo logs, which are called as transaction logs of the database. Sorry. These transaction logs are in Oracle are called as redo logs, or backup of redo logs, which are called as archive logs. So whatever changes you make to the database, say for example, you are inserting, updating, or deleting a record, or you are doing any DDL. So any DML or DDL transactions you are doing, those transactions gets recorded into the transaction logs. Now remember one thing, keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier as well, your transaction logs contains committed as well as uncommitted transactions both. Okay. Now you configure Goldengate capture process, which is also called as extract process. So remember one thing, during the training, we might refer capture, which is also known as extract. So extract and capture are used interchangeably. Let me write. So extract and capture are used interchangeably. So that means that if I'm mentioning capture, it means extract, or if I'm meaning extract, both are same. Same way, replicate and delivery also are used interchangeably. So if I'm saying delivery, or if you see anywhere in slide it says delivery, so it means replicate. Okay. So you have got a transaction logs in the database where the changes are logged. Okay. Now, whatever changes are logged into the database, you configure Goldengate extract or capture process, which reads the transaction logs and captures only committed transactions. So Goldengate capture process reads the transaction logs and captures only committed transactions. It doesn't capture any uncommitted transactions. So as soon as the transaction is committed, it gets captured by the extract process. Once those transactions are captured, it writes them to the trail file on local machine, which are called as local trail file, So once the transactions are captured by the extract process, it writes them, it saves them to the local machine, and it saves it to local trail file on, it saves it to the trail file on machine, which are called as local trail file. Once the transactions are returned into the local trail file, the data pump process, Goldengate data pump process, reads the data out of your local trail, sends the data over TCP/IP network, and writes it to remote trail file on target machine. Once the data becomes available into remote trail file, so there are two trail files: the trail file on local machine, which is called as local trail, and trail file on target or remote machine, which is called as remote trail. So remote trail resides on target machine and local trail resides on local machine. The trail file consumes space on operating system. Okay. So the capture process captures the transactions, writes to trail file on local machine, which are called as local trail. Once the transactions are returned into the local trail file, the data pump process reads the data from local trail, sends it over TCP/IP network, and writes it to remote trail on target machine. Once the data is available into remote trail file, the replicate process or delivery process reads the data out of your remote trail and applies it to target database. So there are three processes involved in Oracle Goldengate replication: extract, pump, and replicate, or capture, pump, and delivery. Okay, so the purpose of extract process is to extract the data from source database. The purpose of pump process is to pump the data over TCP/IP network, that is to distribute the data for over the TCP/IP network. And the purpose of replicate process is to apply the transaction into the target database. And remember, during this whole process, the transaction integrity is maintained. So that means that Goldengate applies the data in commit sequence number. So the transaction which gets committed first on source database gets applied on the target database first. So it's not like the transaction which is getting committed late will be applied on the target first. No, the transaction which is committed first will be applied into target database first. That order Goldengate maintains, and this is how it ensures that transaction integrity is maintained. So I again repeat, Goldengate extract process reads the data over, it reads the transaction logs and captures the committed transaction. It doesn't capture uncommitted transaction, it captures only committed transaction. Once the transactions are captured by the extract process, it writes them to the trail file on local machine, which are called as local trail file. Once the transactions are written into local trail file, Goldengate data pump process reads the data from local trail, sends it over TCP/IP network, and writes it to remote trail on target. Once the data becomes available into remote trail, the Goldengate replicate process reads the data from remote trail and apply it to target database. So if you see, there are three processes involved in Goldengate replication. Each process has a source to read from and a target to write to. So what is the source of extract process? The source of extract process is transaction logs of the database, and target is local trail. The source of pump process is local trail, and the target is remote trail. The source of replicate process is remote trail, and target is target database. Another important thing to note here is pump process, which is sending the data. There is a misconception that pump sends the trail file over TCP/IP network. No, that's not true. Pump sends the data written into this local trail file and writes it to remote. So the data gets transferred over the network. It's not the trail file which is getting transferred over TCP/IP network. Okay. So each process has a source to read from and a target to write to. Now, another important thing we have to note here is, remember one thing. I'll be discussing this in detail, but just to give you a brief overview. Now, pump process source is local trail. It's not data pump process. Sorry, pump process source is local trail. It's not extract process. The source of pump process is local trail. Same way, the source of replicate process is remote trail, not the pump process. So there are three processes involved. Each process is independent of each other. So even though your extract is down, your pump and replicate can continue to run. Even if your pump is down, your extract and replicate can continue to run. Even if your replicate is down, your capture and pump can continue to run. But yeah, of course, data wise, pump is dependent on capture and subsequently replicate is dependent on pump. Okay. So Goldengate also works in bidirectional mode as well. So bidirectional means both the sides are live and Goldengate can capture the data. So the application can be connected to any of the site 1 and site 2. So it is connected to both the sides. So whatever transactions happens on site 1, they will be replicated to site 2. Similarly, whatever transactions are happening on site 2, they will be replicated to site 1. So same way, just like you have set up. So I always say one thing, bidirectional is nothing but two-way unidirectional. There are certain consideration which you have to keep in mind, which we'll be discussing during bidirectional application setup topic. But to keep in mind, Goldengate is nothing but two-way unidirectional with some consideration. So just like you set up Goldengate from site A to site B, in the same way you can set up Goldengate from site B to site A, considering it is separate. So now consider site B as source in bidirectional and site A as target. So what you will do now is site B will have its own transaction log. So you will create a Goldengate extract process which will capture the data from transaction logs of site B, write it to local trail on site B. Once the data is available into local trail on site B, the data pump process on site B will read the data from local trail and write it to remote trail on site A. Once the data becomes available into remote trail on site A, the replicate process will apply it to site A database. So each process, if you see, is independent of each other. There is no relation among them. Okay. So this architecture is really very important. Goldengate architecture, if you have to set up Goldengate, if you have to manage Goldengate, if you have to troubleshoot any Goldengate, if you have understood this architecture, you can work on any Goldengate related stuff. When I started learning database in 2008, my teacher told me that if you have understood database architecture at that time, you have learned 70% of database. I was like, why is she saying so? But now I really realize that database architecture is so vast, and if you have understood it properly, you will feel like you have understood 70% of things. Same thing applies to Goldengate. But remember one thing, the major difference between database and Goldengate architecture is pretty easy. What you are seeing on screen, it is just that. Nothing else is there in Goldengate architecture. Okay. So if you have to set up new environment, if you have to manage Goldengate, configure Goldengate, troubleshoot Goldengate, anything you have to do, you can do it using Oracle Goldengate architecture. So Oracle Goldengate architecture looks like this. You have a extract process which captures committed transactions. Once the transactions are captured, it writes them to the trail file on local machine, which are called as local trail file. Once the data is available into local trail file, the data pump process reads the data from local trail and writes it to remote trail over TCP/IP network. Once the data becomes available into remote trail, the Goldengate replicate process reads the data out of your remote trail and apply it to target database. And then this is how your bidirectional works. So in bidirectional, again, same kind of process flow happens. Okay. So now, so now this is how Goldengate architecture works. Now, one thing which I was discussing was there is integrated architecture as well, right? Now the question comes, what is the difference between integrated and classic architecture? So before I proceed, there are a few questions. So integrated extract is used for Oracle database only, right? Suppose 19C, will integrated extract still be used since classic architecture is deprecated? So integrated extract is still there. Classic architecture is deprecated post 21C. So integrated will still be there. There is no threat. I don't know. I didn't understand your question. Does classic architecture has GUI? No, it is only command prompts. If someone has deleted the local trail file, what will happen? We'll discuss. We haven't come to that point. We'll be discuss about that later on. What happens if the data gets rolled back in source? So Goldengate only captures committed transaction. If it gets rolled back, Goldengate will not capture. Okay. Which background process it shows at OS level for pump? You can, we'll discuss about that question once we configure. Will both source and target database will have capture and delivery process running on them in bidirectional configuration? Yes, correct. So what will happen in bidirectional is bidirectional configuration. You will have source. So that's a good question, I should say. So in bidirectional configuration, what is going to happen is, yes, capture process will run on site A, pump process will run on site A, and corresponding replicate process will run on site B. Similarly, capture process will run on site B, pump process will run on site B, and corresponding replicate will run on site A. So yeah, you are correct. Both capture and replicate will be running on both source as well as target database. Now, bidirectional will be applied by default. Bidirectional will be by default enabled, or we need to use as per requirement. Remember one thing, nothing is enabled by default. In fact, unidirectional is also not enabled. So this one-way application is called as unidirectional. So in fact, unidirectional itself is not enabled. You have to do the configuration. So same thing applies for bidirectional. If you want to implement bidirectional application in Goldengate, you will have to configure it separately. But that all part we'll be discussing during this session. Okay. So now there are two types of extract. One is classic extract and second is microservices extract. So now let us discuss about the difference between classic extract as well as microservices extract. Sorry, classic extract and integrated extract. Sorry. Okay. Classic and integrated extract. What is the difference? And performance wise, guys, let me tell you, integrated extract performance wise is much faster than classic extract. Okay. So first of all, let us discuss about classic extract. So this is the classic extract you see. So what is happening in classic extract is the classic extract directly establishes the connectivity with source database, and then it reads the transaction logs in sequential manner and then capture the transaction. Okay. So classic extract, say for example, in classic extract, how it works is, so let us now discuss about difference between classic and integrated extract. So Goldengate architecture, how it works is, you have source database and target database. It could be any Oracle or any non-Oracle supported database. Then it captures the transaction from the transaction logs of the database. And in Oracle, these transaction logs are called as redo logs or backup of redo logs, which are called as archive. Now what happens is you configure Goldengate extract process, which reads the transaction logs in sequential manner and captures the committed transaction and writes them to the trail file. Once the data is available into local trail file, the data pump process reads the data from local trail, sends it over TCP/IP network and writes it to remote trail. Once the data becomes available into remote trail, the replicate process reads the data from remote trail and applies it to target database. So in classic extract, how it works is the classic extract establishes the connectivity with source database. Once the connectivity is established, it reads the transaction logs in sequential manner and then writes the data to the local trail file. Okay. Now let us see integrated extract. how it works. So in integrated extract, how it works is you have a source database. Now, whatever changes are happening in the source database, those changes are getting written into redo logs or backup of redo logs, which are called as archive logs. Now, internally, when you register your extract process, what happens is the copy of those changes, whatever is getting into redo logs or archive logs, the copy of those changes gets returned into the log miner database. So internally, what happens, you will see when we configure Goldengate integrated extract. As soon as we register our integrated extract to the database, the log miner database internally gets built. You don't have to do anything extra. Internally, it automatically gets built. So whatever changes are getting returned into these redo logs or archive logs, copy of that change get returned into log miner database. And then log miner database passes on those changes in form of LCR, logical change records, to the extract process. So LCR stands for logical change records. So whatever changes are happening in the database, the copy of changes from online redo logs or archive logs is getting returned to log miner database. And from that log miner database, whatever changes are required by the extract process, log miner process passes on those changes to the extract process in form of LCR. Once those changes are passed on, the extract process will write them to the trail file on local machine, which are called as local trail file. And then those changes are read by data pump process. Now, this is how your integrated architecture works. Integrated capture works, not integrated architecture, but integrated capture works. But one thing let me tell you is, what if I tell you the performance of integrated extract is 10 times of, it's much faster than your contemporary classic extract? How would you feel? If I look at this in classic architecture, how classic architecture works is, classic extract directly establishes the connectivity with source transaction logs, and then it reads the transaction logs and writes it to local trail. However, in case of integrated extract, there is one more layer in between of extract and redo logs, which is log miner. So how come the performance of integrated extract is faster than classic extract? See, I again repeat my question. My question is, if you logically see, first of all, I'm claiming that the performance of integrated extract is 5 to 10 times faster than classic extract. But logically, if I look at the architecture, in classic extract, what it is doing, it is directly establishing the connectivity with the source database, and then it captures the transaction, read the transaction logs, captures the transaction, and write it to local trail. So basically, there is no utility or anything between source transaction logs and extract process. However, in case of integrated extract, there is log miner database. So basically, between integrated extract and your redo logs or archive logs, there is one more utility, log miner, in between. So how come the performance of integrated extract is faster than classic extract?
Can I answer?
Yes, sure.
Well, the performance is faster because with classic, extract does all the work. It has to go into the redo logs and read the data sequentially to
Okay.
find the data that's required for replication. Whereas with integrated extract, the log miner mines those records, and whatever record is being required by the extract, it provides. So the extract doesn't use IO to go in and look at all these records sequentially. The log miner does that job for the extract.
Very good. So one more question on top of it. So basically the work which was done by extract, now log miner is doing it. But how come still it is faster? So what you answered, you are absolutely correct. But on top of it, another question from me is still still whatever data was needed in classic extract is doing that. The classic extract is doing that task. However, now log miner is doing that task. So how does it make it fast in that scenario?
So can I try to respond to that?
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe from what I understood is because the classic extract is reading the log files, transaction logs in sequential order, right? Log miner might be doing it in parallel in asynchronous orders and just looking for the changes and the record type and pushing it to the LCR. But on top of that, I also have a question.
Wait. Don't ask your question because let
okay.
Just give answer. Okay. So I'll take the question later on. Don't worry. Okay. Okay. So the answer to this question, as you guys have said correctly as well, but on top of it, I would like to add. So first of all, why the performance of classic extract is good or better or best in comparison to why the performance of integrated extract is good in comparison to classic is, see, first of all, we have to understand one thing. Classic extract, first of all, the thing is Goldengate is a product which is external to the database. Hence, the extract process which is connecting to the database and which is reading the transaction logs in sequential manner, it is external to the database. So the process itself is external to the database. So of course, which is external, it is supposed to be slow. However, log miner is internal to the database. It's the internal. Like this is the same log miner which is used to mine the redo log files. If you have ever mined the redo log files at the database level to read, you use this log miner. So this is same. So log miner is internal to the database. So the filtration of whatever it has to read internally, whatever transactions are required by extract, in integrated extract, it is done internally. And hence the performance is good. And as pointed out by Vikas, obviously, there are multiple processes which runs internally, which makes it faster. So just to give you a brief overview, what happens in classic extract, just for your information. So in Goldengate, suppose in database, you have got 1,000 tables, right? Your transaction logs will contain data of about all 1,000. They may contain whatever transactions are happening. So suppose, let us consider your redo logs contains transaction like this. You have 10,000 sys records. Now your Goldengate extract process wants to capture the data of only two tables, department and employee. Okay. Now your redo logs will contain all the data apart from application. It will contain sys, system, and all internal schema data as well. Now suppose internally your transaction log contain 10,000 sys records, 1,000, 20,000 system records. After that, there are two department table records. Then again, there are 100,000 sys records. Then there are 100,000 system records. And then after that, there are two employee records. So what classic extract has to do is it has to read all these transactions in sequential manner. The reason being there might be some transactions which are there in between, right? So it will read these transactions in sequential manner. Once it reads these transactions in sequential manner, after reading this, it will find that there are two transactions related to department table, and then it will capture. Then again, it will read these many transactions related to system. And after that, it will capture these two transactions of employees. So extract process is doing all these tasks here, reading the transaction logs and then capturing and then writing to local. However, in case of integrated extract. So this happens in classic extract. Now, in case of integrated extract, because it is internal to the database, so the transaction it reads, it's really very fast. And second thing is, it passes on the changes whatever are needed by the extract process. So it passes on these two changes, like these two records of department table and these two records for employee table, to the extract, the integrated extract process. So it passes on these changes to logminer, passes on the changes in form of LCRs, logical change records. Hence, the performance of integrated extract is much faster than its contemporary classic extract. So internally, there are multiple processes which runs in integrated capture. So first is the reader. Reader reads the data from the transaction logs, then prepares it, then builds the data, and then capture. So how does basically Goldengate process connects to the database? The goal for Goldengate processor, for Goldengate processes to connect to the database, you require a user, a dedicated Goldengate user created in the database. And it should have necessary privilege. We'll be discussing when we do the setup about that. So a dedicated Goldengate user is required in the database. Now in the extract process uses that user, Goldengate user, which you have created, to connect to the database. And with help of that, the connectivity established. So when you configure Goldengate or when you create or register Goldengate integrated extract, internally you will find 4 processes are running. First is reader, second is preparer, third is builder, and fourth is capture, and then the changes are passed on to the extract process. So reader process reads the data, preparer process prepares the data, builder process builds the data for logminer, and then passes on the changes to the extract process in form of LCR. So this is why the performance of integrated extract is much faster than the classic extract. Okay. So how to identify which type of extract is configured, whether it's classic or integrated extract? So we'll discuss about that as well. So when you do info extract, you can find, but we'll be discussing about that. Okay, so the performance of classic extract is much faster in comparison to its integrated extract. The simple reason being, I'll tell you the simple reason. If you have to keep that in mind, is internally there are multiple processes which runs in logminer, and second thing is it uses logminer database. Because logminer is internal to the database, hence the performance of integrated extract is much faster in comparison to its contemporary classic extract, because whatever task classic extract has to do now is done by logminer. But because logminer is internal to the database, hence performance wise it is much better and much faster. Okay. So now the thing is, integrated extract. Now another question which is being asked by me from me is, like, which type of architecture should we be using in our environment? Which type of extract which we should be using in our environment? Whether we should use classic or integrated extract? The answer to that question is use integrated extract if it is supported. Now it is supported anyways for Oracle database. For the database versions are more than 11.204. So use that. If your database version is 11.204 and Goldengate version, of course, is 11, more than 11, that 11 dot. Sorry, if your database version is 11.204 and Goldengate is 12C, you can use this integrated X. In fact, I believe the database version was 11.203 itself. The support was included for integrated extract, if I'm not wrong. But yes, with the latest databases, you can use it. And in fact, with multi-tenant databases, multi-tenant architectures, you can only use classic extract. sorry, integrated extract. You cannot use classic extract with multi-tenant architectures. Okay, so now let us discuss about download of Goldengate and what things you need to keep in mind while you install. What are the installation or hardware requirement for Oracle Goldengate? So first of all, let us discuss about before how can you download Oracle Goldengate. So to download Oracle Goldengate, you need to you can download it from Oracle Technology Network, OTN, or edelivery.oracle.com. But what are the prerequisites before you install Oracle Goldengate or before you proceed to download Oracle Goldengate? Let us see. So before you proceed to download Oracle Goldengate, there are few things which you need to keep in mind. You first of all need to note down source database type, source database version, and source platform. Same way, target database type, target database version, and target platform. So you need to keep three things in mind. So let us discuss about download of Oracle Goldengate. So before you proceed to download Oracle Goldengate, there are three things you need to keep in mind: source database type, source database version, source database platform. Same way, target database type, target database version, and target database platform you need to keep in mind. Okay. Now, in our case, the virtual boxes which I have shared with you, these virtual boxes, the source database type is Oracle. The source database version is 19C, and the platform is Enterprise Linux 7. We can always check.
So can Goldengate version 12C talk to Goldengate version 21C?
This will be answered in next few minutes. Okay, so let us check what is the Goldengate, what is the platform we have. So the platform we have is Enterprise Linux. So these are the source database. These are the things which we have. So always remember, before you proceed to download, you need to ensure that you keep these things in mind. Okay. Another important thing you need to keep in mind prior to installation of Goldengate is, or say for example, you are hired as a Goldengate administrator. Okay. There is no Goldengate as of today in the environment. You are given the task to install Goldengate. Now, first of all, before you can install Goldengate, there are certain requirements which would be asked from you, right? There are certain hardware requirements which you need to meet. So what are the hardware requirements you should have? First is number of CPUs you are going to have for Oracle Goldengate. So number of CPUs you are going to have for Oracle Goldengate is, Goldengate can work with 4 or 8 core CPU. But more you get, better it is. But if you have 4 core or 8 core CPU, that should be fine for Oracle Goldengate. Then second thing is space requirement. How much mount point space you need, right? First of all, whether you want to add Goldengate. So there are two things also. Apart from space, you also need to decide where you want to install Goldengate in. Whether you want to add a new mount point like /Goldengate in your environment, or you want to use existing mount point like /data or /u01 in your environment. So it's up to you again. First thing is to decide in which mount point you have to install. Second thing is how much space you need, because you need to define space as well in your environment, right? So generally for space calculation, each person has its own space calculation method. What I do personally is, for space calculation, I take out last 30 to 60 days archive log generation report. Okay. So suppose one day it generated 20 GB, one day it generated 1 GB, one day it generated 100 MB, another day it generated 100 GB. So for last 60 days or 30 days, I take out archive log generation. After that, what I do is I take average of 7 highest archive log generation days. So say for example, the 7 highest days were, one was 100 GB, second was 20 GB, third was 25 GB. So out of those 60 days, I take out highest 7 days archive log generation. Okay. Then what I do is I take average of those 7 days highest archive log generation. So suppose the average comes out to be 25 days, 25 GB. Okay. The average of highest 7 days archive log generation comes out to be 25 GB. So what I do is now, generally organizations or client requirement is to keep 7 days trail files. The trail files will be generated in Goldengate. So they keep 7 days data in Oracle Golden trail files. So what comes out to be is, based on our calculation, we require 25 into 7 equal to 175 GB of. Okay. 25 GB, how did we get was from last 30 to 60 days, 7 highest days we have calculated, every found, and for those 7 days we took the average of highest 7 days. Now we multiply it by 7 based on client's requirement. Now if client wants 15 days trail files to be kept into the system, you will multiply 25 into 7. So generally, like 99.9% organizations use 7 days criteria, 7 days trail file. Now after this, what I do is, now I need, as of today, if I talk about today, I need 175 GB, but I have to do future, I have to keep future in mind as well, because the data size might increase. And in that case, I cannot request for mount point every day, right? So I have to keep future in mind. So what I do is, whatever size I get, I multiply it by 5 times and then request for size. So I request for, so it's up to you. You can multiply it by 2 to be on conservative side, or you can multiply it by 5 to be on higher side. So I request for approximately 800 GB of space to ensure that I have, like, to ensure future is safe. I don't have to request it again and again. Okay. So this is how you do space calculation. But the thing is, each person has its own space calculation criteria. It's not like I'm using this, so I'm correct or I'm wrong. It's my space calculation criteria. I'm just analyzing the future. I'm just analyzing how much space I need. Same way, if you are doing it, you may be doing some other, you may be using some other space calculation criteria. But this is my method, what I do. Okay. Third thing, what you need to keep in mind is which user you are going to install Oracle Goldengate with. Are you going to install Oracle Goldengate with Oracle user or any other user like GG admin or GG user? Okay. So to decide, if DBAs are going to handle Oracle Goldengate, then you can use Oracle environment. Then you can use Oracle OS. I'm talking about OS user. So you can use Oracle OS user to install Oracle Goldengate. But if Goldengate and DBA's responsibility are segregated, like your Goldengate team is different and database administrators are different, so they are different teams. In that case, you should use GG user or GG. So if Goldengate team is not responsible or not working as database administrator, then you should install Goldengate with GG user or GG admin or any other user. Ensure that that user is part of O install OS group. Okay. So these are the things which we need to keep in mind before we proceed to install Oracle Goldengate in our environment. Okay. So once you do that, once you have all this requirement, then you can proceed to install Oracle Goldengate and download Goldengate. So let us see how we can download now. So to download Oracle Goldengate, you need to keep these things in mind. Okay. You should have these information available. Once you have these information available, okay, then next thing is, it is very important, like checking the certification metrics. Now the thing is, say for example, someone was asking me, if we have Oracle database 21C, can we use Oracle Goldengate 12C? Or if we have Oracle database 19C, can we use Goldengate 21C? Now to answer that, this applies to any technology, not only Goldengate, any technology in this world. Okay. So this applies to any technology. You should always ensure you are checking certification metrics. Okay, each technology, whether it is Oracle Goldengate, Oracle database, has certification metrics. So ensure that you are checking the certification metrics before you proceed to install. Before you proceed to download. So let us check certification metrics of Oracle Goldengate. So Goldengate is a fusion middleware product. So to check the certification metrics, you can go to Google and type Fusion middleware certification metrics. Fusion middleware certification metrics. Now go to the first link, what you get. Okay. Now in this, you can find your certification metrics like Goldengate 21C certification metrics is here. Oracle Goldengate 19C certification metrics is there. Oracle Goldengate 18C certification metrics is there. Same way you can find when you go below 12.3 Goldengate certification metric, 12.3 certification metrics, 11G certification metrics. Same way you can find Veridata certification metrics as well. Okay. So now the question comes, which version should we download or install? The answer to that question is always go with latest supported version. So let us check Goldengate 21C certification metrics. I'll download it. Okay. Okay. So I'll download 21C certification metrics. So it will download Oracle 21C certification metrics for you. Okay. Now, okay. So I'll go to Goldengate tab. Now here you can find like this certification metrics will tell you what database version, what type of databases it supports. So if you want to check what databases Goldengate 21C supports and what platform it supports, you can go through this certification metrics and it will answer. So like these are the platforms this Goldengate 21C supports. So it's not like if you're, these databases Goldengate supports. So it's not like if your database is not mentioned over here, Goldengate doesn't support it. It just it might mean that only 21C is not supported in that. 21C is not supporting your particular database. So if your database is not listed, like Informix is not listed, for example, check 19C certification metrics. If 19C doesn't say, check 18C. If 18C doesn't say, check 12.2, 12.3, 11G. If none of those says, then it means it's not supported. So if anyone asks you this question, or if you have to ask, if you want to know whether Goldengate support this database or not, check certification metrics. Whether Goldengate is supported on a particular platform or not, check certification metrics. So you can check, you can find what platforms it supports. So you can find all those things here. Okay. So everything is present. So let us see. In our case, the Goldengate is, the product family is Oracle databases. So I'll select only Oracle database. Okay. Then here, if you see Oracle Goldengate 21C. Now you can check here, it supports Goldengate 21C, supports Oracle version, it supports Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. So our case is Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, it is supported, and the database it supports is 21C. So this is Amazon RDS for Oracle. No, I have to check Oracle database. Okay, so this is the one which I have to check. So this one. So Goldengate 21.3 supports OS. These are the OS version, list of OS versions you can find from here. So Oracle Goldengate 21C supports RHEL 7, which I have in my environment, and it supports Oracle database 11.04, 12.1, 19C as well as 21C. So you can go with Goldengate 21C. It will be supported in our environment. So you can go ahead and download Oracle Goldengate 21C. Okay. Same way, if you have to select some other database, change the data, change the product family, and then you can check the OS. If you want to check according to OS platform as well. So if you want to check OS, our case is we don't have it on Windows. So I'll reduce the filter. So see, I'm getting it accordingly. So for Oracle database, this is I'm getting this information. So for this, I have to download Oracle Goldengate 21.3. So both classic and microservices, both types of architectures are. Okay. So now what I need to do, I need to go ahead and download this binary. So how do you download? You can go ahead and download Oracle Goldengate 21C. You can either download it from edelivery.oracle.com or you can go to OTN. Now on OTN, if you go, you will find that you will find binaries for both classic and microservices here. So here, if you see Oracle Goldengate microservices binary says microservices, and the one which says nothing, that means it is classic architecture binary. So this is classic architecture binary and this is microservices. So the one which says microservices, Oracle Goldengate 21.3 microservices, that means it is microservices binary. And the one which says only Oracle Goldengate, it means Oracle Goldengate class. So if you see here, Goldengate binaries are specific for database and specific for platform as well. So Oracle Golden, so if you see here, Oracle Goldengate 21. This is for Oracle database on this Linux x86 platform. So R is Linux x86 64 and Oracle. So we'll go ahead and download this. Same way, if I have to download microservices, I'll choose this binary. Same way, if I have to download Oracle Goldengate 21.3 for Oracle on Windows, I'll choose this binary. And if I have to choose microservices for Windows, I'll choose this. Same way for DB2, this is the binary on Linux. Okay. DB2 for ZOS, DB2 for LUW, these are the binaries. Then for MySQL database on Linux, this is the binary. Postgres on Linux, this binary you will choose. So same way for SQL Server, you will choose this binary. So the thing is, each binary is specific to database and platform you want to use. Okay. So once you have decided, go ahead and choose the binary which you want to download. Select I reviewed and you can proceed with downloading the binary. The binaries will download. You have to provide your credentials after this. Once the download is done, you can transfer it onto your machine where you want to work on. So these virtual boxes which are shared with you, the binaries are already downloaded and present. So in the next session, we'll be proceeding with installation of Oracle Goldengate. So binaries are present under /home/Oracle/software. So in these virtual boxes, the binaries are already present. So if you go to what training provided virtual box under /home/Oracle software, you can find the binary for classic. Goldengate Classic 19C is also there. Goldengate Classic 21C is there. Veridata binaries are there, and microservices 21C binaries are there. So in the next session, what we are going to do, we'll proceed with installation of Oracle Goldengate. So we'll see both silent as well as GUI installation in the next session. So if I have to quickly take all the questions are, let me take. So I'm using ProMox and would like to use RL9X as compared to RHEL7. How can I do so? So for that, check if that is supported in certification metrics. If that is not supported, you cannot use. Are trail files of fixed size like Redulogs? So you can, trail files by default, the size of trail files is 500 MB, but you can increase or decrease as per your requirement. Okay. Oracle Goldengate 21C supports both classic and microservices. Can we use RHEL 7.9 for GG21C? So I think I answered that, right? So Goldengate, check the certification matrix. As per certification matrix, Goldengate 21C supports your RHEL 7 and RHEL 8 both. So you are good with that. Okay. So if I have to quickly recap, what we have discussed in today's session is, in today's session, we discuss about introduction to Oracle Goldengate architecture. So in 2009, Oracle overtook it, and since then it is known as Oracle Goldengate. There are two types of architectures, classic and microservices. So classic is command prompt based architecture and traditional architecture. Microservices is latest architecture and was introduced in 2017, and it is web-based REST API based architecture. Veridata is another product in Goldengate family, which allows you to verify the data. It is a separate license tool. Then we discuss about why Goldengate, it replicates the data in near real time. Then there are two types of extract process, classic and integrated extract. Classic is there since beginning. Classic is external to database and it reads the data in sequential manner and captures only committed transaction. Integrated extract, log miner build happens and log miner passes on the changes in form of LCRs. Then we discussed about different types of replicats, which are non-integrated or classic replicat, integrated replicat, coordinated replicat, and parallel replicat, which is again of two types, parallel integrated and parallel non-integrated. Then we discussed about Oracle Goldengate architecture, how data flows in Goldengate. So all the processes in Goldengate work independently of each other. Then there are three types of processes involved in Oracle Goldengate architecture: extract, pump, and replicate. And then we discuss about installation requirement, and then we also discuss about downloading. Before download, what you should do. So before you proceed with download and installation, always check the certification matrix and then you can proceed. Okay. So in the prior to the next session, what you should do is complete the lab setup for both Ggate 1 and Ggate. So guys, let us wrap up our session for today and we'll continue same time next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish.